Scott says Celtic can buy in January if the title is in doubt. And that brings me to Bobby Clark, who was a name mentioned as not just being linked with Celtic. There was a couple of reports today saying he was going to sign for Celtic for around £6 million in January.
The deal was pre-agreed.
Yeah.
It had been done in advance between the clubs, and that it was just a matter of, as soon as the window opens, that deal will be processed and rubber stamped. Which turns out not to be the case at all.
I mean, at Record Sport, the Hotline Live, we understand that there is no interest from Celtic at this point. I mean, obviously, he's 20 years old. He was once a promising prodigy at Liverpool.
He's a cracking, talented young boy. He was one of the, the raft of young players all come through similar age groups a couple of years ago under Jurgen Klopp, and he was as good as any of them.
Aye.
A real talent. Look, if it is one that Celtic might be able to, because we don't know, there might be reasons that, the story came out, and then the stories sort of people have been walking away from it, putting a bit of distance. Maybe there's a negotiation ongoing. I'm not sure. I think what's a bit depressing from a Celtic perspective is you hear that this morning, you think, oh, well, this is brilliant. The club have realised the error of their ways. They've made a real mess of that summer transfer window, and they're so desperate to make amends for it and to win the fans back over, and possibly certainly more importantly in terms of the running of the football team, to win Brendan Rodgers back around.
Yeah.
That if they were able to say to him, well, don't worry, Brendan, we know we've let you right down with the way that we've handled that. Here's a way of saying sorry. We've got Bobby Clark lined up, and we've got £6 million set aside, and he can come in on January 1. That would go a long way to making everybody feel a little bit better about what just went on in that bin fire of a window there. But for whatever reason, we are hearing from around Celtic Park that there was actually a bit of a rush today to kind of cool the speculation and put a bit of distance between Celtic and that deal. That's exactly the deal that Celtic should be looking to do. Young boy, enormous talent, huge potential for growth.
Still only 20.
And at a fee of £6 million.
That's what was mentioned.
It's exactly the type of price range for a boy of that quality, because you could double, treble it, quadruple it in no time if he goes on to become the player that he looked like becoming under Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. So I'm surprised in a number, because it just felt like really good, positive bit of news, that as if Celtic were getting their ducks in a row for January, and then the surprise being that the club didn't appear all that happy about it being speculated and being put around there. I don't know if they feel it's putting them under pressure, undue pressure, months before the window's even opened again.
Jacko, could you see them? I agree with you, right? I think Bobby Clark's a cracking young player,
real
really
talent.
highly rated. And as you say, at that age, that profile, that price seems like a good deal. I must admit, the first thing that came to my mind about him joining in January was, where does that leave like your Engels and your Bernardos and people like that who are struggling to get a game at the minute? I mean, and listen, I get you need to have a strong squad. I get Celtic need to build for the future. That's been the kind of Celtic model, getting players in young at a good price with the hope of selling them on. We all understand that. But first thing I thought about was another talented young midfielder. I mean, I think of Bernardo, for instance, who was like Portugal under-21 captain. I think Celtic maybe signed him for a similar fee. They get really struggling to get a game, struggling to get minutes. So that's the one thing that surprised me when I read that story. If they were bringing him in January, where's he going to fit in at the moment? Did they try and move a Bernardo on? Or,
well, just on that, Scott, I mean, P. McLaughlin says, I think Hatate's going to be in the move, and I think Hatate's a wonderful player, but when he's at his best, but I think he checked out a while ago. He's not the same player this season.
That might be the answer, Daniel. That's
what I was going to suggest, Scott. Is there's every chance that someone like Hatate might, because I mean, we've seen there's a bit of disquiet. Kyo goes away, Maeda wants away. Hatate, I think, has been agitating a little bit as well. So I think if they could get a deal lined up to get Hatate moved on. But I also, what I would argue with this, Bobby Clark in particular, Scott, is in your normal way of building a squad, one in, one out, cover the positions. But I think if somebody of that talent and that profile becomes available at that price, then you do the deal, and then you work around what you do after that. I just think that looks to me like an absolute no-brainer in terms of a bit of business, because the growth and the earning potential on that signing would be, incredibly high, because I think it was only a couple of years ago people were saying this boy's destined for the very, very, very top level.
Yeah.
So if Celtic had the opportunity to do a deal like that, I think regardless of what the situation would be with the first 11 right now, I do think it's one you would just do and then work it out from there. And whether that is, he plays in front of Engels, he plays in front of Nygren.
McCowan or whatever.
Yeah, I like McCowan. I've been saying he should play more.
Me too,
but Nygren right now, would I rather have a Bobby Clark in there than a Nygren? Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I know that might upset a few people because he's made a decent start. I don't think he's ripping any trees out the ground. A boy like Bobby Clark has got the potential to go to a different level entirely. So I could completely understand why, if someone had come to you with a proposal like that, you'd be interested in it. But it seems, if anything, Celtic want to pour a bit of cold water on the notion. Still, at least I think from a Celtic perspective, you would look at it and say you would hope that there's no smoke without fire, and that even if it's not that one, maybe the feelers are out. Maybe the everything's being put in place for there to be a significant kind of recruitment drive in the January window, which is a notoriously difficult window at times. But if you're starting your planning at this point, it puts you ahead of the curve, doesn't it?
This is the age-old question with Celtic players coming in. But if they did sign Bobby Clark, would that be a Brendan Rodgers signing for you, Jack? Or is that
a club signing, as he calls it?
A club signing.
I think Brendan Rodgers would be thrilled. I think that's one of those weird ones which hit both sweet spots, if you know what I mean, Scott.
Aye.
I'm sure that Brendan Rodgers would look and say, that's a quality addition. But I'm also sure from a business perspective, Celtic will look and say, that's a brilliant investment. So yeah. I think you're hitting both kind of targets with that one.
And if it's not Bobby Clark, as you kind of mentioned, Keith, there's got to be still significant money spent at Celtic. I mean, I know January is really hard, but I would still expect him to spend a few quid.
Well, this is what it comes back to. That's why I said that I thought that what was really encouraging about it from a Celtic perspective would be, are you going to try to ease this rift with the manager? Are you going to try and give him reason to think, do you know what, I want to go again at the end of this contract. I'm not going anywhere. Because I'm being back, because I'm bringing in exciting players that make me, get the adrenaline going in terms of where I might be able to take this team next season. And that's why a signing like that, I think, would, give everybody a shot in the arm. So the flip side of that coin is, if Celtic have decided that they're in no great rush to try and satisfy Brendan Rodgers in January, having failed to satisfy him in the summer, and it's merely just a case of getting to this end of this season and then refreshing and going in a new cycle with a new manager in charge, then that would lead me to believe that any signings that were made in the January window would certainly be more kind of club signings, if you like, to use Brendan's phraseology. They would be more investment signings rather than ones that Brendan Rodgers is screaming for, saying, this guy makes my first team better tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a fair point.